Good evening, St. Louis, and welcome into the Billikens Central postgame on STL Sports Central. I'm Matthew Rocchio. That is Ashley Wright, and we are here to talk about another beatdown by the Billikens in conference play, another plus 20-point win. Heck, this one goes for plus 30, 35 points over the Bonnies, and they dominated this one the entire time. Ashley, your opening thoughts on another dominating Billikens victory?
Yeah, I mean, what more can you ask for, right? When you're able to make 19 threes, still win the points in the paint battle, shoot 57% from beyond the arc, win second chance points. What more could you ask for from the Billikens tonight?
I love that stat you threw out right out of the gate. The fact that they hit 19 threes. Bonnie's only hit 4. They only took 11 more than the Bonnies and hit 15 more. That's incredible. And then they still beat them 36 to 28 points in the paint. If you look at the shot charts between these two teams, it just shows you just how different these two teams are. In fact, I'll actually get a share screen up here and we'll show everybody the shot chart from tonight because it just illustrates two different kinds of basketball. And I know the old heads out there refuse to admit that the current three and free throws and layups type of basketball is superior. But I dare them to look at a shot chart from tonight and just see the utter dominance and look at the Billikens. It's all 3-pointers. It's all shots right near the rim. Look at where the Bonnies are. It's shots all over the paint. It's like some threes, but again, it's poor. A couple mid-range shots here are long too. God forbid, what are we doing taking these kind of shots in 2026? It's a completely different sport essentially being played tonight by these two teams. And the stats you threw out right at the beginning might have been the best example of it.
Yeah, it looks like the Bonnies tried to do more of that three-level scoring. They've got a lot more mid-range attempts, obviously, but the SLU brand of basketball, interior, really physical around the hoop, and then that allows them to kick it out beyond the arc. And obviously, it's a recipe that's been working.
Yeah, they've been dominant. The crazy part is that they've actually haven't been that good away from Chaffetz Arena shooting the 3 ball. But tonight, obviously, you can erase any kind of questions around whether or not they can shoot on the road because previously this season in the first conference game, they set a new record against a D1 team by hitting 19 threes in a game. And they just did it again for a second time. And this time they were away from their home gymnasium. That's just unheard of. And I was on with Grant Salzman earlier today on STL Sports Central talking about this game. And I mentioned they don't shoot that well on the road. I look like an idiot after that comment when they come out here and literally set a record and they do it in an incredibly efficient fashion. It wasn't like they're the Houston Rockets out here putting up 45 3-pointers. They're doing that, taking just 33. It's absolutely just insane. And again, we every time we do a post game, I use the same adjectives because they just keep adding on. They keep surprising us. They keep doing new things we haven't seen.
Yeah, and how about not even a month ago having 19 threes and being able to tie the record a month later at St. Bonaventure? Oh my goodness. And what really stood out to me, Matthew, is the fact that SLU and St. Bonaventure had the same amount of possessions. Mm-hmm. And the fact that SLU was able to be so dominant with the same amount of possessions, it's glaring.
Yeah, that was a big thing in the Duquesne game. In fact, it was a thing in almost every single Billikens game last year is that they would never win the possession battle. And that's just how many possessions do you get? Are you turning it over? Are you giving a lot of offensive rebounds and things like that? They were always losing those periphery battles every single game. The Duquesne game might have been the first game they actually lost and had less or lost the possession battle. Obviously, they won the game. And to see it tonight, it'd be right back to where it needs to be. And then for them to dominate, like you said, with the exact same amount of possessions, the scorebook the stats that we get from this carrier that is giving us the stat book tonight doesn't have points per possession, the analytic number, but I imagine the Billikens were probably around 1.5, which is just 1.4 is elite. They were probably around 1.5 tonight based off the possession numbers and the point numbers. It was another dominant game. And the big thing is that so consistently our hey, it's a dominant game conversations have been, for lack of a better word, dominated by Kellen Thames. And despite the fact that he was very efficient, he was solid, he did nothing wrong, he had a highlight play, it wasn't Kellen Thames that shocked us all. It was Ishan Sharma.
Oh my gosh, 29 points in 24 minutes. That first half was monstrous. And 29 points, Like, how many came from threes? 9. So he had 27 points out of 29 from beyond the arc, on fire. We were texting before hopping on, and I was telling you, like, he is on a heater. Couldn't be stopped.
It was unbelievable. And here I have I'm bringing up a picture right now. The only 2-pointer he scored in the game was on this shot. Look at the 3-point. Look at the attempt he passed up to take his only 2-pointer. He very easily could have shot this one. No one would have had a problem. I'm sure Shirts is standing right behind him right here saying, okay, go ahead, take that shot. And he doesn't. This is the 2-pointer he gets. Got a very easy look at the rim. But this is kind of a microcosm. First, it's incredible that they can create this kind of space late in the shot clock, just 10 seconds left. That's just a part of the Billikens offense that jumps out. But the fact that you have a player like this who's on a heater, who at this point wasn't close to the record, but did end up one away from the single game record of 10. I mean, he could have easily taken this one, but he saw a better chance. He sees that all these Bonaventure players are kind of clumped in here, looking away. You know, their bodies are angled away from the ball. So he's got an open lane, essentially, if he can beat this man, who obviously, I think he had 7 or 8 threes at this point. He's going to hard contest this play. Just the fact that he denies this three and takes the drive, it's a microcosm of the sacrifice, the smart play, the decision-making that makes the Billikens an elite team.
Yeah, exactly. And what a great job by the Billikens at exploiting, the lack of awareness by St. Bonaventure. They're all packing the paint. And by this point, obviously, you can see this is the second half. So he's already torched them from beyond the arc, and to leave him wide open like this. But for Sharma to have that ability to put the ball on the floor and score inside, that was definitely something that was nice to see too.
And we've talked multiple times in the postgame with Earl, with Rammer, I think me and Eric Sontag as well. We've talked a lot about Ishan Sharma because he had the big career night game of 18 points a few weeks ago, but there's been a lot of games dotted in between that where he's been a little bit more quiet offensively, but we can point out to his defense or his passing or something along his game that really steps up. Tonight he had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 turnovers, and 2 steals. So, I mean, that's just a guy who's contributing all over the place. I made the tweet. I tweeted it out today. I might have been, putting a little bit too much dip on the chip, but I tweeted out and said, right now as it stands, Ishan Sharma would have the most NBA potential on this roster, I think. I think long-term, Amari McCautry and, Jax Kerr, obviously, 7-footer who can shoot threes. Amari McCautry, 7-foot wingspan who can hit threes, although when a guy hits 1-3 and then goes 1 from 5 from the line, tells you the truth about where his shooting stroke's at. But where Ishan Sharma is right now, the fact that he can shoot like he did tonight, and also to Schertz's point from earlier in the season, he told me that after Amari, he's most comfortable with Ishan having to go to a bigger guy who outweighs him and is a little bit more physical. If you got to guard up, he wants Amari on a big guy, and then he wants Ishan. Combine that with the passing and the rebounding and the defense we've seen from Sharma. I mean, he's not a high pick, but I mean, a second-round draft pick with this shooting, this 3-and-D potential, he's an incredible player, and we did not expect this from him. We expected the shooting. We didn't expect the all-around game from Ishan Sharma this season, and he continually keeps on giving it.
Exactly. I love that you said, he's a 3-and-D guy. A big thing right now is kind of that positionless basketball where, like you said, you can play and defend a guard, you can play and defend a post player, and he can do just that. And he can extend for teams from beyond the arc, extend their offenses. That's definitely an NBA-esque game.
I can't put it out on here because we're on YouTube, but if you go to my Twitter, you might be able to see a nice little compilation of some of the shots that Ishan Sharma hit. And it's not just like catch and shoot threes from standing still. He's sprinting around screens, and I tweeted it out before the season. And I will take credit for this one, a little pat on the back, because I was watching him in 2 scrimmages, and I was like, oh, he's one of those guys where his athleticism is one of those things where he's not going to jump out of the gym. He's not a bad athlete, but his athleticism comes in that when he jumps, he just seems to kind of float there for a second, and he can control his lower body independent from his upper body. And then my tweet was, as long as Ishan Sharma squares his shoulders, the other team's screwed. And that's what you see tonight. He's come sprinting around these screens. His lower body is still moving with his momentum, but his upper body is completely squared up to the basket. And that's why one of the special one tonight was the one he came off on the baseline out of bounds on the little handoff where he comes around the screen, he's falling away, and he hits dead back iron, barely moves the net. I mean, that is legitimate NBA level 3-point shooting where you have to get around screens, you have to do it on the movement, you have to do it over defenders who are in your face. And so far, Sharma's done it multiple nights, and tonight he just happened to put it all together at once.
Yeah, and an underrated ability for shooters is off-ball movement. That's exactly what he has, and he does it to a T. Like you said, coming off of screens, curling. He's always and constantly in motion, and that gets defenders kind of off balance. It's hard to keep up with a player like that.
Yeah, and this whole team is so good at off-ball movement, and another big thing is when you're watching Ishan Sharma, and probably would be a fun thing to go back and through this game and just after he makes a three, like the next couple possessions, just watch how the Bonaventure team is guarding him and how much that opens up space for what other players were able to do. And now a lot of other players didn't have to do a lot, and we'll talk about them in a minute. If you guys have any questions, any comments from the game, jump into the chat. Me and Ashley will get to them. Eddie Pavisic, comes into the chat. Don't have a list off the top of my head, but Ishan has to have one of the prettiest shooting forms in Billikens history. Yeah, it's top 3, and I don't think it's 3.
Yeah.
Gibson Jimerson for me is the prettiest I've ever seen, because he had it in all ways, but he had it also is that he was one of those guys where he didn't have to reload. If he caught the ball here, the ball went straight back up, and so Sharma has done that actually one time this year where he caught one and he didn't reload, and I think he made it. Just and combining with what he can do now again off the dribble, yeah, it's him and Gibson in the the 5-6 years I've really been paying attention. Somebody with a lot longer attention span than me would probably have a different answer and have a better top 5 list, but Gibson Jimerson's the best 3-point shooter in program history. He went 9 for 17 one time in his career. Ishan Sharma just went 9 for 12. It's top 3 and not 2, not 3 is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's absolutely insane. Let's talk about some of the big moments from today's game. And of course, those big moments are always brought to us by our friends at HomeBank. When we were putting together STL Sports Central, we knew we needed a business banking partner. And so that's why this Billikens postgame, like all our postgames, is brought to you by our business banking partners at HomeBank. From business lending to everyday banking, HomeBank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships. And with HomeBank, those relationships make all the difference. HomeBank is the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. HomeBank, member FDIC, more than a bank, they're your business partner. It's hard to focus on just one moment in these Billiken games because they jump out so quickly, and it feels disrespectful to say, well, I'm going to pick my money moment of the game as when the Billikens took a lead with 16-19 left in the first half. But there's something along these lines that I can't pick one moment. I'm just going to have to go with Ishan Sharma's first half run when across a 3.5 minute stretch from 13:28 to 10:17, he hit 4 3-pointers, and the Billikens went from leading the game by 12 to leading the game by 20. That right there, in my opinion, that's when you put it out of bounds. That's when you break a team's spirit. When you go from leading by 12 early to leading by 20, 31-11, that breaks a team's spirit. I'm giving it to Ishan Sharma's 4 for 4 3-point start in the game.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point there. I'm going to give it to Avila in that last 3 to tie it for the record. I'm going to give it to him.
I like that. Avila ties it with the record. He goes 3 for 3, and that's another player that I wanted to talk about tonight because he's not having a big game, and the broadcast was really talking a lot about the sacrifice and the season he's having, despite the fact that he's not having his big minutes like last year, 10 minutes less, efficiency's up, scoring's down, and so far and so forth. But tonight, I think, was just an incredible example of that. Robbie Avila tonight, 9 points on 3 of 4 shooting. He goes 3 of 3 from deep. He also has 5 rebounds, one of them an offensive board, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, and a block and a steal. That's just it's indicative of what Robbie's been doing this year. He's become a better rim protector. He's been better as a defender in the paint, 1v1 against post players. He's been much better than he was in previous years. Last year, too much of the playmaking onus was on him, and so he was turning the ball over all the time. 5 assists to 2 turnovers tonight. You're always going to take that from Avila. Not a big scoring night because he didn't need it to be. They were up 20 points for 10 minutes into the game, but a great solid night, and just shows you early on in the game, Robbie Avila hit some plays, was an assist leader right out of the gate, hit some threes. When they need Robbie Avila early in games when they're blowing teams out, or late in games if it's going to be close, Robbie Avila's there, and he usually delivers.
Exactly. It's kind of like surprise, surprise. You have a big man that is capable of scoring, so he's drawing attention. And what do you know? He can kick the ball out, or dish out a couple of assists. I think Avila is absolutely a lot more impactful than what he's getting credit for. And I think it just took him a little bit to find his game. Maybe he's not that playmaking guy, but he can be that guy that gets a lot of attention offensively and is able to incorporate his teammates.
Some really special plays from the night, as there always are when you're watching the Billikens. Of course, my favorite one, Ishan Sharma. He's 4 for 4 from 3, and he gets a steal, puts it behind the back, and then pulls up for the alley-oop pass to Kellen Thames from 5 or 6 feet behind the three-point line. Special. It's probably going to be on SportsCenter, but the little part about this play that I love so much, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Trae Young who started doing this. It might have been Jose Alvarado. There's some NBA player who started this trend of when you throw an alley-oop. I think it might have been Trae Young, because he did it with Clint Capella down in Atlanta. When you throw an alley-oop to the player, you jump when he jumps. And for me, it's the most adorable thing in modern basketball. And here's Ishan Sharma, and this is by Micah Belu, who's on Twitter and does a great job. This is Ishan Sharma. This is not the jump he made to make the pass. He made the pass beyond the three-point line. He's continued his momentum, and then he jumped synchronized with Kellen Thames as he went up for the dunk. I've been seeing players do this for a few years now, and it's my favorite thing in the entire world.
Yeah, no, that's fire, and I don't think that he would have needed that trampoline down there.
No. Kellen Thames does not need a trampoline. You're absolutely right. I'm shocked. That's the thing about Kellen Thames. 14 minutes played. He only scores 6 points, but he's one of the underlying, things that you got to get out here and watch Billikens games, guys, because they don't have that many home games left. And this is what they do every single game. And they do it even better at home. If this is a home game, they cross 100 points with a few minutes left, probably. And Kellen Thames is always hunting for those moments. As soon as Sharma put that ball behind his back, you can see Kellen Thames on the bottom of the screen. He knows, and he's thinking, before he crosses midcourt, he's thinking, I'm about to dunk on a fool. And that's how Kellen Thames does it. He's thinking 100% of the time while he's on the court, what's the smartest play? Me dunking on somebody. That's the equation he sees out there. And that's why this team's just so fun to watch.
Exactly. And you have to have that level of aggression, right? Because that feeds through your team as well.
Oh, and he feeds this team. There's no doubt about it. And tonight was another night with the Billikens where it's just, and this comes a little bit from my conversation earlier today with Grant Salzman, and it's just what this offense can do, all these different things that they're doing. And a lot of it is not 100% new. They pull a lot of ideas from the NBA. They pull a lot of things from other coaches. They pull a lot of things from the Indiana State playbook that got them this far. There was a play with Kellen Thames that I showed on Wednesday. It was literally the exact same play as they used to run with Jason Kent. There's a screen they were running tonight a bunch that is literally the exact same screen action they ran with Jason Kent. Both get shooters open at Indiana State and get Kent open on drives. And it's just the offense has a plan. Like I am kind of subtweeting the Missouri Tigers with this one. I don't mean to, but I also mean to, because it's just so different watching a basketball team with this kind of offense. And it's one thing where it's like, well, we don't have any shooters. What are we going to do? And there are some teams out there who are poor or are unfortunate to watch because they have no shooters. And there's also, people from the Virginia coaching staff who hate watching fun basketball and coach like they do. But you have shooters and you can't get any kind of offensive movement going. It blows my mind, because then I can watch the Billikens game after game, just movement after movement. And honestly, going back and watching a couple Indiana State games earlier this week, this Billikens team moves less than that Indiana State team, which shows you that there is a ceiling, or that we haven't seen the ceiling in what a Billikens Josh Schertz team can do. Because I go back and I watch the Josh Schertz Indiana State team, and I go, oh, that team cut even more than this team. That team moved even more than this team, because that team didn't have the plethora of shooters this team have. That team didn't have the depth this team has. But it just shows you this offense has levels to it. And I know I keep saying this, but I just don't think we've seen the highest level. Tonight might have been it, but at the same time, we saw Ishan Sharma erupt, and no one else really got going. And was that because they didn't need to, or was it because they were just a little bit off? Again, if they're at home, this is 100 points easy. Just show you Sharma hits. A few games ago, Brady Dunlap hits. Kellen Thames continues what he does. The starting lineup, we've all seen them all hit pretty much. It's just everything keeps rolling with the Billikens, and it's just good to see a coach who's clearly maximizing the talent he has.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on a really great point, the depth of this team. I know we've talked a lot about the 3-point play tonight. It's 57% from beyond the arc, but also 57% in the field, right? And not every guy tonight made a three. That's because of how deep this roster is. And like you said, the ability offensively to have so many options is definitely going to be beneficial moving forward for SLU.
It's insane. And tonight, as usual, obviously they get 29 points from Ishan Sharma, so they get over 40 points from the bench. That's big, but also just the fact that they can get in a game like this 6 points from Kellen Thames, 7 points from Paul Otieno. Paul Otieno is another one that we don't talk about a lot because he's not putting up the big stat lines that he did when he was the main big man at Quinnipiac. He had a big game against the Billikens. Everyone is expecting, oh, this is what Paul Otieno is going to be for us game in and game out. No, but a solid game tonight. 7 points, 2 for 2 from the field. He goes 3 for 4 from the line. It's honestly insane. Even with winning the points in the paint battle, the Billikens went 4 of 9 from the line. Only 2 Billikens players got shooting fouls called on them. It's insane. It continues, but whatever. 7 points for Paul Otieno, 7 rebounds, 3 of those being offensive boards, and he also has 3 assists to go with 2 blocks. Doesn't turn the ball over at all. He continues to find his niche, and that's something that Shirt's talked about a lot. He's one of those players, kind of like Q as a guard, Otieno as a center. They got to find what they're at because the system is so different from what they were when they were at their previous stop, and they were the focal point of offenses. And Otieno continues to find where he's at in the offense, and I think that's feeding his rebounding and defense every single game.
For sure. There are other ways to be impactful. Like you said, 3 offensive rebounds, that's second chance points right there. 2 blocks, that's a great defensive presence. So I definitely think, again, his confidence, being able to really hone into his role. This team is deep. So what worked before might not work this season. But the fact that they've all bought in, that says a lot about this team.
Yeah, that also says a lot about this team. I mentioned this right off the rip, but when you look at the schedule and what they've done so far. So we have a 23-point win over St. Joseph's in conference. They have a 22-point win over Fordham in conference. They just beat Richmond by, what was that, 19? No, my apologies, 25. And then they beat St. Bonaventure tonight by 35. So we're talking 4 of 7 conference games. Over half of the conference games, they've won by at least 22 points. It's just they're stomping the competition. Obviously, there's always the potential that something bad happens. No one hits any shots. They turn the ball over. They lose the rebounding battle against a team with size. Because we've seen them do all those things individually in games this year. They just haven't done all of them at once. So is there a game out there where all of those things happen? I'm not even sure, depending on who it is, that they would lose that game because everybody, to your point, they have the depth. At some point, you have to think every single game, at least somebody is going to give them enough to at least be in the game.
Yeah, they find ways to win. Like you said, we weren't expecting Sharma to come out like this. Like it's the next man up mentality into which it just works for this team. Again, like those stars that we talked about, Avila, he doesn't have to go out and give them 15 a night because Sharma will step up or someone else will step up, and that's a great, I wouldn't even say problem to have. It's a great benefit to have.
And also, I think some people, we got to think and just how much last season weighed on Robbie. He was injured. He was playing a lot of minutes. He was getting hacked to every game and not getting foul calls for him. The fact that he can play this amount of minutes, it wouldn't shock me if we do see Shirts just pull a card where he plays 30 minutes in like a conference in like a conference tournament game, or maybe he's just waiting till March and he's going to say, listen, I guys like Brady, guys like Paul, these guys are great in these conference games, but maybe in the tournament, he shortens up the rotation by 1 or 2 guys. And that means Robbie is getting 30 points. And, let's have a little fun with the numbers. Actually, let's look at what Robbie's, because like last year, high usage rate, he mattered the most. Everything was on him, but he played a lot more minutes. So if we go to basketball ref, and I do love me some basketball ref. And we just look at the per 40 minute totals. Let's take the numbers. Let's extrapolate it because he's playing less minutes. Last year, his per 40 minutes was 20.3 points. This year, it's 20.3 points. Last year, it was 8.2 rebounds. This year, it's 6.8 rebounds. I think we can easily account for those 1.4 rebounds lowered in the per 40 minute stats. We can account for that simply, which is Robbie's playing more on the perimeter this year because teams can't play guards on him. And last year, because teams played guards on him, they played him in the post more. This year, teams have to play big men on him, and so therefore he's always on the perimeter. So I'm fine with the rebounds dropping a little bit. That's no big deal. Here's the big one. Per 40 minutes, Robbie Avila is averaging his highest assist count of his career. You go to per 100 possessions, he's still averaging the highest assist count of his career. His per 40 assist count this year is 6.2. His last year at Indiana State, it was 5.2. That just shows you right there. It's all about the minute count with Robbie Avila. There is no production drop in Robbie Avila. Extrapolate it by possessions, extrapolate it by minutes. The counting stats have gone down, but the actual production on the court when it matters, minute by minute, it's still right there, and that's another reason why the Billikens are 19-1.
Yeah, and again, to have a big that can scan the floor like Avila can, why wouldn't you decide to put the ball in his hands and let him make those proper passes?
Yeah, and this year the passes are more wide open because they've added shooters. Last year they had Gibson, they had Isaiah Swope, and then they had a little bit of Kobe Johnson as a pure catch-and-shoot shooter. This year, Brady, Q, Sharma, Trey, Dion sometimes. Amari will hit a 3 now. I'm up to 6 people. Oh, yeah. Robbie Avila's shooting. What is he shooting?
Roster at this point.
Yeah, Robbie Avila is shooting 45% on 4 threes per game this season. You have 7 to 8 shooters on this team. It's ridiculous. It's just so much fun to watch. And honestly, I'll be honest, I add a little bit of fun with our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook when I'm watching a Billikens game from time to time. A game like this today, sometime maybe you take the Billikens money line and you're never sweating the game at all. You can have a lot of fun with the NFL playoffs because with the NFL playoffs, you can have a blast. Let's go. Let's get DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner, rolling because with them, every moment feels bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast. With DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in the moment, make every moment matter. This NFL postseason with DraftKings, you can also make every moment matter in live betting when it comes to your college basketball. I love live betting college basketball. Again, my little tip out there for everybody. I've said it a couple times and some people are rolling with it. If the team is playing defense in front of their own bench, it's going to be a low scoring half. If the teams are playing offense in front of their own bench, it's going to be a high scoring half. Take that to the bank. DraftKings has your back with early exit protection when it comes to your prop bets for this weekend's NFL Conference Championship. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. I'm staying away from some of the props. I like the Jared Stidham under passing yards that Randy Carricker's been throwing out on the Randy Carricker show this week. I, on the other hand, am rolling with Travion Henderson and some rushing yards for the Patriots. Obviously, because I think we're going to see the Broncos try to shut down Drake May. I'm obviously going to pick up some rushing yards with the Broncos because obviously they're rolling with Jared Stidham. But overall, I'm still telling everyone all I feel. If you care about what I care about, or you care about my opinion, Patriots -5.5. Go ahead and take the money line. I don't see a way that they lose this game. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire half with their early exit protection on your props. Why would you ever bet props, player props anywhere else? But here, with new customers, here's your shot. Bet just $5. And if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports right on your screen to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins in partnership with DraftKings. But the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Ashley Wright, Matthew Rocchio here on the Billikens Central postgame. A big night for the Billikens over the Bonnies, 97-62. A record-tying night for the Billikens. They hit 19 threes as a team. Ishan Sharma, a huge night, 9 for 12 from 3. He's the leading scorer, 29 points off the bench. Before we head out here, Ashley, any last thoughts on another Billikens victory?
Just a huge night, like we said, dominant. Oh my goodness, I'm excited to see them keep rolling for the rest of the season.
We'll see if they can keep rolling when they face off against George Washington coming up on Tuesday in just 4 days. They are back at Chaifetz Arena. They got 2 games back at Chaifetz Arena, George Washington and Dayton. And after that, just 4 more games after the Dayton game. Right now, I believe on SLUBillikens.com, they have a little ticket package for the final 5 games. That's Dayton, LaSalle, VCU, Duquesne, and Loyola Chicago. At least one of those games should be an 100-point scoring game by the Billikens. It'll be a lot of fun. Those last 6 games in Chaifetz. Get out on Tuesday night. It's going to be a great game against George Washington. One of the big games for the Billikens coming up this week, Tuesday night, and we will be right here. It's going to be a 7 p.m. tip-off at Chaifetz Arena, so right around 9:30, we will be live right here on the Billikens postgame. And we'll be joined by one of the legends from the Billikens broadcast, either Bob Ramsey or Earl Austin. The George Washington facing off against the Billikens at Chaifetz Arena coming up on Tuesday. That is their next matchup. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ashley. You did fantastic tonight. We loved the insight. Can't wait to get you on another one. In fact, I've been talking to Earl Austin. We got to do a Billikens podcast. The team's been too good.
For sure.
We got Earl Austin Jr. on the payroll. We got to do a Billikens podcast. He does his show every Saturday morning over on KLIS. We're right there in the building. We got to meet up and do a Billikens podcast. It'll be a lot of fun. This team's too good not to get some of the legends like Rammer and Earl on to talk more Billikens. But again, we'll be talking more Billikens on Tuesday night here on the postgame show. For Ashley Wright, I'm Matthew Rocchio. Thank you to everyone for joining us. You can always watch us right here on STL Sports Central on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button there so you always know when we're going live, which is after every SLU game, after every Billikens game. We got all your coverage here for basketball season as both these teams, hopefully with the Tigers, are on their way to the NCAA tournament. This has been the Billikens postgame. Have a great night, everybody.